A lot of you are a bit late.
Yeah.
Starts at past, doesn't it?
Oh, actually, right. I need a female volunteer. Can somebody come up to the stage? Just for a minute. Yeah.
But I thought for this bit it's me who needs the volunteer.
No, it's me. It's definitely me, Sean.
We rehearsed it in this first bit.
No, Sean, it's on the set list.
No, this beginning bit, it's me, definitely me who needs...
Definitely me who needs the female volunteer. Every night she walks right in my dreams, since I met her from the start. I'm so proud I am the only one who is special in her heart. The girl is mine. The doggone girl is mine. The girl is mine.
Jerry, we're not going to fight about this, okay?
Sean, I think I told you, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Well, Jerry, I've heard it all before. She said I was her forever lover, don't you remember?
Well, after loving me, she said she couldn't love another.
She said that?
That's what she said. You keep dreaming.
I don't believe it.
Oh, the girl is mine. The girl is mine. The girl is mine.
She's mine.
The girl is mine. She's mine.
She's mine. Oh no, sorry, you're right. It was you who needed the volunteer for that. I'll just leave it to it.
I'll sit down now.
I guess we'll crack right on with the interview. I don't actually know where Joe's gone though, but I mean I don't want to hold you up. So I guess if I can could just all the men in the audience hold their hands up, and we'll just try and find a good replacement for him. You actually you look quite like Joe. Sorry, what's your name? Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Tom.
Tom
Nolan.
Tom Nolan. Big hand for Tom, everyone. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is a big moment. This is a bit scary, but the good news is the whole thing's totally scripted. Oh, that's great. That's a script there, actually. So.
You want me to go?
Yeah, Joe, you carry on.
Hi guys, as John said, we'll be doing a few things today. Later we'll have some career advice from me and John, followed by a quiz round. Before that though, we're very lucky to be interviewing one of the founders of Rhubarber, Dom Roland.
Oh, Joe, hi, Joe. Have you seen the guy we're gonna, oh, cheers mate. Have you seen the guy we're gonna interview anywhere?
Not since swimming.
Well, I guess we can do that because you know how you look quite like him. Maybe you can just. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think we've got the answers. So yeah.
So Dom.
Hi, Joe.
Just to give you a little context on how this all came about, I thought I'd tell you about the recent business lunch me and John had in Portobello, where we had decided to discuss exactly what we'd do this evening. As we wandered along Portobello's seafront, the sun setting over the Firth and the salty waves lapping at our... We wondered...
what? Sorry?
I don't know. It says a question mark.
Okay.
We wondered that our main concern was what exactly we were going to do when we graduated. So as part of that, we decided to talk to you, an ex-ECA student who is now running a gallery space and studio complex that is so very... adjective?
Thanks, Joe. Firstly, I suppose I'd like to say how incredibly flattered I am to be here this evening, taking part in what is rapidly becoming one of my favourite pub-based art events. But anyway, that wasn't really a question, but basically, Rhubarber is all about generating a supportive workspace and a dynamic platform for local and international artists. We aim to give early career artists the opportunity to produce new work in a discursive environment, work collaboratively with other artist-led initiatives, and explore wider debates in contemporary art. bring exciting and challenging work to Scotland.
Interesting. And I suppose the final question I've got for you is about who's your favourite artist? Perhaps not on an international scale, maybe more in terms of those people who are part of the Edinburgh art scene.
Right, well, in terms of artists I admire working in Edinburgh, obviously there's Ben Walterman and Bart, my brother, Bart Roland, who obviously produce very interesting work. As well as that, I'm actually a tremendous fan of you and John's work. In fact, I've been meaning to ask you for a while if you and John would like your own show at Revival. It would be a tremendous honour for us all.
We're off script now.
Well, keeping on the theme of our futures.
Yeah, and sort of employment. We really want someone. Is there anyone in the audience who's currently unemployed and is maybe looking for some advice, some career advice? John, I think your name's John. That's a good name. Will you come up here?
Maybe
Get
this
some
is
advice. I'm sure you've done things like this. You've just got some questions which will determine your.
Just sort of multiple choice, nothing difficult.
Yeah.
What would you prefer as a mode of transport? A mythical winged horse or a tiger?
The winged horse.
Winged horse.
Right, okay, yeah. Which of these non-profit organisations would you prefer to work for? A re-education camp or
Amnesty International.
What exactly is a re-education camp?
now a question about your music taste. Would you rather listen to "We Will Safeguard the Leadership of the Revolution with Desperate Courage" by the Central Military Band of the Department of the People's Armed Forces, or
Gannon Style by Psy.
No, the first one.
Cool.
right? Okay.
Well, okay. So that's.
So your ideal career is primary school teaching assistant. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I think we just felt kind of the other pub quizzes, we didn't really get much out of them at the end of the day. They were a bit one-sided, you had a great time, we didn't really... For us, it was a pretty useless exercise, to be honest. So this is just trying to kind of redress that balance of knowledge. So the question is, should I...
Yeah, go for it.
So question one is, would an anarcho-communist society ever develop a successful extraterrestrial space exploration program? You've got about 5 minutes.
Cunt is purple, cunt is misspelled, cannot is warm, cunt is snow, cunt is book, cunt is log, cunt is, cunt id, cunt is pancakes, cunt is daft, cunt is stabbed, cunt is bleeding, cunt is end, cunt is snake and ladders, cunt is corn, cunt is bits, cunt is nothing, cunt is flesh, cunt is flying, cunt is blood, cunt is high, cunt is me, cunt is me, cunt is boat, cunt is head, cunt is arms, cunt is fingernails, cunt is good, cunt is God.
So, we're going to do who's in the cupboard.
Who's in the cupboard?
So, yes or no questions, please. Has anybody got a question?
Are you a man?
Are you a man? Person in the cupboard.
Are you a man?
Jerry, they've gone.
What? No.
There's no one in here.
No
Maybe
way.
Maybe there's a door. I think there might be a door out the back here. They might have left.
I don't think he'd fit under the seat, would he?
There's a... Alex? Alex? He's not here. He's gone.
Has anybody seen Alex Salmond? Fuck's sake. Well, I suppose
He was our best guest. And he's buggered off.
So just a quick question for the crowd. Has anyone ever been to the city of Lafayette in Louisiana? You've been there? Oh, brilliant. That's the first time that's ever happened. Great. So you'll get this ever so slightly more than everyone else. Really just between you and me. Great. So a couple of years ago, before I came to university, I went to the city of Lafayette and I stayed there in the summer with some cousins in Louisiana. Now, a lot of people, the idea that they have about Louisiana comes from films like The Princess and the Frog, Deliverance, and Pirates of the Caribbean 2, where they go and visit Teodama in the swamp. And it's not like that at all. It's actually a really nice kind of multicultural state. It has a lot of influence from loads of different countries like France and North Africa, and it's kind of become this accumulation of the hodgepodge of different colonial cultures that took over between the 18th and 19th centuries. And it's really great, and the city of Lafayette specifically is really weird because it's a city, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but it's a city that looks like it's stuck in the 1960s perpetually. So in terms of the architecture, in terms of the decoration, in terms of the way that the people dress, even though I visited there in about 2007, 2008, everyone looked like they were still in the 1960s, like they'd all gone to Woodstock, thought this is a great idea, and then just kept doing it for the next 50 years. So there were people there who believed, unironically, that wearing bell bottoms was a good idea, and that decorating your vans with orange flowers is great. And I was there, and I managed to make friends with a group of teenagers who embodied that kind of 1960s spirit in the city of Lafayette. So, I, looking back now, they were very much the stereotypical group of friends that a kid makes in a novel, for example. So you had your typical stoner, you had a really gorgeous redhead that everyone had a huge crush on. There was a really posh kid who actually unironically wore an ascot, and there was a really geeky girl who was really clever and is definitely going to rule the world someday. And it was the five of us, and we used to kind of wander around the city, and they had this horrific van that they used to drive around in, and it was this horrid faded blue and green van with some kind of orange flowers spray painted on it, and they used to drive around this monstrous 1965 Chevrolet Greenbrier, that's what it was. They used to drive around in this horrific van, and we used to kind of go around to soda shops because those are a real thing in the United States, and we used to go to the posh kid's house. We used to hang out in his huge garden, and he had these two dogs, and one of them was a Great Dane, and he used to be really playful, and then there was another one that was like really annoying and shitty. It used to bite at everyone's ankles. It was really scrappy. Anyway, so what happened was that while I was there, I made friends with these people, and I was working as a caretaker / assistant to an elderly man. You can actually look him up on Wikipedia. His name was Mr. Ronald Stevenson, and he's quite famous in Louisiana because he made a lot of money in the manufacturing industry, and he gave most of it back to the community. He was very much of a philanthropist, and he was a very, very old man when I started working for him. He was 92, and he needed somebody else around the house besides the cooks and the cleaners. He needed somebody who would help him write letters and who would help him read because his eyesight was going. And so I would go in the morning and help him write things and have conversations with him. And over time we actually became really, really good friends, and we became quite close to each other. And I realized that even though he was quite wealthy and quite a philanthropist and quite loved within the community, he didn't really have anyone to talk to. Most of his friends had died, and his daughter lived in Baton Rouge. They didn't really speak very often, and so I could tell that he relished this opportunity to have me as a friend and have me as someone to speak to. And so we became, over time, over the kind of 2 months that I was there, we became quite good friends. And we used to have these really long chats into the night about literature specifically, and he had a huge love of history, and specifically military history, and he used to collect all these kind of swords and relics of kind of medieval battles, and he actually had like a full suit of armour in a corridor, and it was really interesting. We used to talk into the night, and he was the one who originally got me into Philip Pullman, and it was great. And once I remember, it was July 11th that I kind of came to the house, and the cook came out to meet me, and she said that something had happened, and that Mr. Stevenson had passed away, and he was dead. And I remember it was a shock to me, it was a shock to everyone in the community, and there was kind of a big hubbub in the city of Lafayette, and there was so everyone was really shocked by it, and so we had the funeral 2 days later, and his daughter came into town to see the funeral and to pay her respects, and a lot of other people came to town. It was at St. John's Cathedral, which you may have visited while you were there in Lafayette. It's a beautiful cathedral, and one of the things that Mr. Stevenson had said to me, that he didn't believe in the concept of inheritance. He wanted his money, and he wanted his house that he had, this beautiful manor house that overlooked the Vermilion River, that he wanted them to go back to society, and specifically the house, he wanted to give it back to the city of Lafayette. It was this beautiful French house, a relic of the colonial times. It had a lot of history in it, and he wanted it to be turned into a museum or some sort of community centre. And he really believed that that's what should happen, and it became clear. He clearly didn't put this down in a will, because it became clear a couple of days after the funeral that his daughter intended to stay in the house and not really give it back to Louisiana, and that she intended to live there and move there from Baton Rouge. And this didn't sit well with me as someone who had become friends with Mr. Stevenson. It didn't sit well with a lot of other people, but specifically with me, someone who had recently become his friend and who saw the love that he had for the city and the love that he had for a house and what he wanted to do with the house. And I really didn't believe that, I don't know whether Catherine knew what he wanted to do with the house, but I didn't believe that she understood what she was doing and that she should continue to live in this beautiful house. So what I did was I dressed up as a goblin. I went to a costume shop and I bought myself a goblin costume, and I would kind of creep into the house at night and hide behind the couch, and then she would look up and see me, and I'd kind of do a double take and I'd hide behind the couch again, and I would kind of cut holes in the eyes of portraits and sneak into the cracks in the walls and look through behind the portrait, so it looked like the eyes were kind of tracking her across the room. Now, a lot of you are art students, so you know that there's like an actual painting thing you can do to make the eyes track you, but this was like really, eyes following across the room, so it was really creepy. And I would kind of hide inside the suit of armour, and then she would walk across the hall, and when she'd get past me, I'd kind of start walking behind her, and then she'd turn around and I'd stop again, so it looked like the suit was kind of following her around. And then on dark and stormy nights, I would cut the power to the house, and I would run in, and I would get a wall, and I would spray paint in red paint, "Get out," so that when the lightning flashed through the window, it lit up really ominously. And she got the police involved, but they didn't believe her because goblins aren't real. And so nobody really seemed to believe her until, really funnily, this group of kids that I kind of became good friends with, they were kind of called in to help out. They were her last resort. It was really weird because they kind of all turned up in this blue and green van with the yellow-orange flowers, and they kind of brought the dog along with them. Weird thing, and they kind of decided to investigate, wandering around the house with the magnifying glass. And the only thing I could do was really continue what I'd been doing. So I kind of would pop out and scare them, and there'd be these moments where they'd be in a corridor, and I'd kind of chase them down the hall, and we'd all go into one room, and then one of them would pop their heads out of one of the rooms, and I'd pop my head out of the other one, and then we'd all kind of zigzag our way down the halls, and then I would kind of go into one room, and they would come out of another one, and then go into a third room, and then we all stick our heads out at the same time, and we all scream, and I'd go, "Whoa!" And at one point, they almost caught me, and the really geeky one came up to me, and I kind of knocked the glasses off her face, and she was like, "Oh, my glasses! I can't see anything," and kind of ran off into the night. And so, it was loads of fun. But then, by the time I was about to leave, they were still kind of investigating the house, and through what, looking back, ended up being a hilarious set of coincidences, who managed to catch me in this comically oversized net. And at that point, they'd already figured out that it was me that was doing it. And so they kind of did this thing where I was all wrapped up, and they would kind of come up to me and go, "And it was the caretaker," and then it was me. And so they caught me. And I didn't get arrested because it's not illegal to dress up as a goblin. But I did kind of go back home. I kind of came to Edinburgh University. But, it is a shame because looking back, I've done the research, and the house still belongs to Catherine Stevenson. It hasn't been given back to Lafayette, it hasn't been given back to the community. I just think that I could have done it if it wasn't.
Work by Andrew Gannon called 7 Works. Bin work. A man stood for 3 hours balanced on the rim of an empty metal dustbin.
Work with newspaper. For a period of 1 hour, a group of 4 participants lay on the floor, on their backs, with a broadsheet newspaper spread covering their faces.
Face painting work. 2 curators wore face paint for the duration of their film screening event. Pink, blue, yellow, white and gold face paints were used.
Work with balls. For 1 hour, 6 participants each used their nose to hold a lightweight plastic football to the wall, using as little pressure as possible.
I can say what I want, and you're all sat here listening. So it's like, it's you that are stupid. if I'm shit. Do you know what I mean? Right, New Year's resolutions for 2007. Oh, God. Eat more healthily. Do work on time. Never bitch. Use time more wisely. Don't have too many lions. Enjoy everything in life. Live each day as if it were on purpose. That is a direct quote from the film Hitch. I used to live each day as if it were on purpose. You know, Will Smith, isn't that right? Speaking of American accents, yeah, because I saw that, I thought it was like so profound when I was that age. It's like, yeah, and goals: get a job, do all coursework well, do a backflip, brackets, train up, get an ace boyfriend, ambitionize. Right, 2008. Do more schoolwork, revise. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Get tummy flat. Be consistent with looks, dash hair, dash nails, dash etc. Play the field. Turning 16 that year. Right, learn more. Don't waste time. Find me time, but not pathetic time. I think pathetic time means like watching the OC or something. Right, write more. Develop as I am doing. Enjoy! Exclamation mark. 2009, right, this is the last one, don't worry. 2009 must do more exercise, dance, run. Make more of an effort to empathise. God. Involve more males. Ooh. Kind of did. 2009. Right. Involve more gigs, songwriting, art writing. Oh no, art, writing, and zeitgeist reflecting. I knew what the word zeitgeist meant, so I started using it all the time.